Yes, here we go. It is the T.N.F. It is Thursday night. We're a wee bit later tonight, 8 o'clock. It's a different lineup tonight as well. We're joined by Liam the Punk Nut Warlord, who you are used to seeing on the Friday Field. And how are you, Liam?
Brilliant, mate, bro. Getting ready to get stuck into this team right now. you know, I've been watching Mark Tierney on Twitter all week, and so I'm agreeing with a lot of what he says as well. But yeah, let's talk about this team. I think when we have to keep an eye out. I think one of these things, like, all right, I think I've seen a couple of things now that are patterns that we've had before that are starting to appear that we thought maybe was gone, and I think we can discuss some of that tonight. I think everybody's starting to see it,
A few chinks in the armour, mate. We could certainly be discussing that. Johnny joins us as well, mate. How are you?
I'm all good. Unlike Liam, I've not been keeping up with Twitter because I just cannot get on with Twitter at all. I just cannot make head nor tail of it. I've tried twice. I think Davey's been tearing his hair out trying to teach his old man how to navigate Twitter, and that I just gave up on it. I just thought I can't be arsed with that. So unlike that, I've not been keeping up ahead with Mark. I only see what Mark gets up to on the bus here, and he's been on fire this last few weeks. Mark? He's hit his targets and he's hit every single one of them absolutely bang on.
He's meeting his KPIs, mate, definitely. But it's Thursday night, so that means it's the night we hand over the keys to use as well. So remember to use the hashtag TNF and get your points in. We'll deal as many points as we can. We'll jump to the phone a wee bit earlier than normal tonight as well. So looking forward to reading as many of those as possible. So start getting anything you want to talk about Celtic-wise, get the points in now, and we will bring them up between now and 9 o'clock. Also, remember, all that good stuff means give us a like, give us a share, slag my hair, whatever you want to do with hair. Remember as well, if you do it, subscribe button, hit the bell, never miss a bus. It's all important. Also, piesports.com, bus 1888 gets you a tasty pastry discount of 12.5% at the checkout. Loads of different varieties of pies on there. So have a wee look and remember and use that code because you view the bus, you are entitled to a discount. Also, there is the option of becoming a Voice of Bus member, like so many have. Totally optional. Bus content's always free, as you know, but it just helps keeps the wheels on the road. The likes of Jim Dolan, Stephen Murdoch, Scott Melville, Stephen Murdoch again, why no? Pam, Smell the Glove. Loads of in there. Alex Forsyth, regular. Alan Mokwa, San Fran Celtic, Martin Kay. Loads of yous have, man. Loads of yous have. So a big thank you to you all and everyone who jumps on the bus. That goes for, of course. Right, okay, Liam, I think the best person to come to is you first. You've started with a wee bit of a threatening tone there, so I'm intrigued to hear your take on the side. There is undeniably been... I didn't agree with the slump in form. I thought it was a wee bit much, if I'm honest, the slump in form at the period it was getting described. And that was obviously only a Dundee United draw away from home. And amongst that, there was 3-0 wins, 4-0 wins, and I thought it was a wee bit harsh. Albeit the energy of the team maybe had fallen and the actual level of performance wasn't quite as good. I didn't think slump in form was a fair way of putting it, which I was kind of seeing as the sort of regular sort of narrative that was being pushed. Since the new year, we've dropped points in 2 out of 4 league games. We've played 4, I think. Maybe we've played 5. Maybe 5. Maybe it's 5. But we've dropped points in 2 of them anyway. There was a 3-0 humping by Rangers, and then we conceded 3 again against Dundee away from home, and we've won our home games. But away from home, 2 out of 2, we've dropped points in. We've conceded 6 goals in the 2 games. So undeniably, there are chinks in the armour to be discussed. Of that, I'm in no doubt. Take it away, big man. Where are you at on it, and why is it you think Celtic have conceded as many goals as they had and have dropped points in the 2 aforementioned games?
I think you have to point the finger at our manager right now. Our manager right now seems to be very complicit in this entire thing. And I think we've got a lesser version of Rodgers. Just like when you get players that come back and you know they don't have a good a good return, or they've got older, their playing style's changed. I think it's the same with managers, and I think there's certain people the game moves on from, and it doesn't seem to be like we've got an enormous advantage, with the amount of money we have, the international players we have, the whole thing. So most people should be able to get a tune out of that team. So when I'm not expecting to ship 3 goals to a Dundee, and I'm also not expecting to struggle against these teams as well on a fraction of our budget. We've set that bar for ourselves, and so we have to play to those expectations. And you're fully expected to win 3-0, 4-0 at home with the team, you know, and the firepower repossessing that. What I don't see is Rodgers getting a tune at them. I'm seeing a captain that's really off right now and seems to be, doesn't he know what his role is or what he needs to be commanding in the midfield. I've got a striker that's up there that's not scored in something like near 560 minutes of football. A striker from England, you know, the English league. He's not getting a tune out of him. He's managed to take Kyogo. And again, Kyogo's now looking probably more effective on the wing. You know, and I don't know what is, you know, is going to move Daizan in the middle? Or it's like, how long are we going to wait before we see a chance to see Johnny Kenny? I mean, there's a player that came up and he was like, all right, he's on fire. He seems to be hitting the mark, you know, in Europe as well. So, what, you know, we've got one that's not doing it right now. And then you're shifting one for the wing back to the inside and that. And now we've also hearing that, again, we're losing younger players that haven't found access or a gateway into the first team. And I don't know, I think right now I'm looking to see, just like everybody's looking to see more from like Cal McGregor and Ida and all that, I want to see more from Rodgers. I really think he's been outmanaged in the last couple of games and people are figuring out how to play against him like the way they have before. And with the advantage we have, that shouldn't be happening. So that's just where I'm starting tonight.
Right? No. I think that's you're absolutely entitled to your view on it, Liam. Definitely, Johnny. It's a tricky one from my point of view. I look at it and I go, if he was getting found out so much, then no way we can have the records that we do from the 2024 season, which is a year where we only lost away to Hearts, dodgy refereeing decisions, and we only lost away to Dortmund in that whole calendar year, 50 whole games played. There'd be a strong case for Rodgers to, you know, rebut Liam's argument there. And I think that's fair. However, notwithstanding it, undeniably, I think there is traits to this side that have been worked out, if you like, as Liam's putting it, or found out. And I think Pato's came in as well, and he's sort of, he's on the same page as me. I was talking about this with Terry. Celtic don't like the high press. And that is obviously this Brendan Rodgers version of Celtic. They don't like the high press. Pato says the team could not defend a fish supper, cannot beat the high press, need to change tactics. I think there's a really, really simple one that I do think the Premier League in England is snobby towards now. It started off with too much long balls. Then they became snobby towards it. Now though, to the point where they've got goalkeepers, you know, all of them having to play 5-yard square balls from the, you know, their by kicks and stuff like that and putting their team under instant pressure because it's so in vogue. And I think there's traits of that Rodgers undeniably now got stuck to him like glue. And I do suppose it comes over you when you're in that league and that's the environment where it's elite level and that's what they all do. And I don't think you can shake it off. I felt against Rangers, one of the obvious things we could have done before the game, and definitely a stab at after, is if they're high pressing you, beat them with one pass. It doesn't need to be hoofed up aimlessly. The movement we're constantly told about that Kyogo does off the ball is that he isn't found because Celtic aren't the same wavelength apparently. Well, chuck some balls in them for one of these amazing runs to get on the end of. And that's not me having a pop at Kyogo in any way, shape or form, by the way. But it seems so obvious to me with the pace that we've got, Johnny, in the front three. Even, by the way, if you take Nicholas Kuhn and Daiza Maeda out the equation, we had Kyogo and Yang alongside Adamida, who's no slow coach, by the way, and the long ball works for him if you want someone to hold it up and bring the rest into play as well. But I think that's where we're missing it. And I don't mean long ball tactics. I mean trying to vary things up a wee bit to catch. See if plan A isn't working, make sure plan B is different for fucking plan A. I'm so sick of the Pep Guardiola school of thought that it seems to be that's rubbed off in the whole of that league down there. I think probably Rodgers to a certain aspect as well, where if plan A doesn't work, we just keep doing plan A better. We just try and do plan A better. I think it's that stupid philosophy. It doesn't make sense to me. It just basically means I'm too stubborn to change it. I've got one set of way of thinking and I ain't doing it. Go see Ange Postecoglou's getting home having only one plan down there right now. But for me, that would be the obvious change I'd do right now. If you don't like the high press and you're struggling to overcome it, and teams up and at you is becoming a problem, you're inviting pressure on, try and get their defenders to turn back on themselves a few times. Try and get the midfield facing their own goal. And that would mean lofting some balls into a bit of space for guys with electric pace that we have, even the backup players that have got, blessed with a lot of pace in these areas. Go make them do some running. Try and get them on the end of some loose balls. Get the other team thinking twice about doing that high press. If you can beat them in one pass, suddenly they might start sitting off again, and then you can play your football again. But right now, what I'm seeing is Celtic one-dimensional, albeit it's been very successful. So it doesn't want to sound like I'm having too much of a pop. But just to caveat it, to overcome the recent issues we have had with two teams pressing us, Dundee second half, Rangers the full 90 minutes, that would be, from a non-tactician's point of view, something that's such an easy fix. And it doesn't need to mean that's how your style's defined. It just needs to be bring it into the game. Once every 5 times you've got possession of the ball, the team's got possession, go direct, put it into some space, and let's see how much they fuckers like running towards their own goal with the pace to burn that we've got in attack.
Yeah, can't argue with you there. What I will say is that I tend to agree with you, Boyce, when you say the slump, maybe a bit harsh calling it a slump. I think because we had such a scintillating start to the season, if you want, and we were pretty much steamrolling everybody in front of us, it was probably more the performance levels dropped a bit. And we weren't quite as cavalier as we were at the start of the season. My biggest issues, again, it winds me up, this Schmeichel to Vickers, Vickers to Trusty or Scales, whichever one it happens to be, to Taylor, back to Trusty, back to CZV, out to Johnson, back into the middle. Let's get the ball up the park. We don't score goals from our own 18-yard box. And I've never really been a fan of this, we don't like playing the long ball game. There's been people playing the long ball game for years. Glenn Hoddle was one of the best passes of a ball from about 50 yards. He could put the ball on a sixpence from 50 yards, and he had the likes of Ricky Villa to run onto it. Bobby Murdoch for the 60, for the Lisbon Lions, he could spray. He didn't even have to move. You just give him the ball, and he would pick a pass, whether it be a 10-yard pass, 30-yard, or 50-yard pass. And like you said, it breaks the lines, and we've got more than enough pace to defeat that press, get over the top of them. You've got the pace of Kuhn, we've got the pace of Maeda, Kyogo, Yang. I'm not his biggest fan, I've got to say, but they've all got pace, and if you put the ball in front of them, they will have and force defenders to turn around on them and to twist their own bodies to try and get around and play catch up. Because Kuhn and Maeda are already facing the way they want to travel, the defenders are now going to make the turn and try and catch up with them. And you give Maeda any sort of a head start and you're not getting back at it. But I think a lot of our problems come because we invite the press onto us with our tippy-tappy back and forth. I know when, obviously, a couple of weeks ago we had the little family fallout regarding the booing of a pass back. Nothing wrong with a pass back if you need to do it to get out of trouble, but to do it almost for the sake of doing it, or as Rodgers tried to say, is to try and change the lines and the angles. I get fed up when I see 3 passes getting made to get to where the ball could have gone in one pass. When it's coming across the back, i.e. the Carter Vickers to Scales to Taylor. Well, Carter Vickers could have put the same ball to Taylor with, cut out the middleman. We always say, we want to make a profit, cut out the middleman. So I think we invite a lot of those problems on ourselves. And my other main concern is up front. I'm getting really concerned about Ida now. How many games has he gone now without a goal, without even really looking like he's going to score a goal? We're talking, what is it, 11 games?
Adam Ida, he's 12 games now, I think. 557 minutes. 550, I think it's 12 games.
And I mean, it can't be doing him any good. His own confidence. I mean, they always say strikers play on confidence, but he's just. I just don't get the feeling that he's going to really be the man to turn things around for us. Or not even turn things around, but I don't see him being into well at double figures, like sort of score every season. He's really disappointed me. I was really had high hopes for him, and I thought, well, once he starts getting a couple, I remember being here with David and Phil, and we said, well, once he starts scoring a couple of goals, that'll set him off. But it just doesn't seem to have lit the touch paper for him at all. I'm kind of getting a bit concerned about him, like, you know, and also the fact that we know that Kyogo, he's been so much more involved in the last couple of games by playing away from the central striker. And I think you mentioned it with Terry on maybe the last PMP or the one before it, because he's coming back and getting more involved in the play. So it must be something to do with our system that's not getting the ball to them. And you also alluded there, I was speaking to my brother-in-law, who's a big Spurs man, and you know, Spurs are now nearer the bottom of the table than they are the top, and because of a man who will not change his system, and he's trying to play the system he always wants, but he hasn't got his full team out or anything like it, and he's trying to get lesser players to play the system he wants, and it's not working for him down there. And I think he'll be looking for a job shortly, but that's on a different tangent. But yeah, that's my main concerns about Celtic at the moment. We're too pedestrian and at the back, and we take too long to get things done. And like you said, break up a little bit and stick a ball over the top, either down the wings or across the middle, and get them onto it and have them trying to get in that opposition boxes, creating chances.
Yeah.
I don't think we're creating the same amount of chances we were at the start of the season.
No, I think that seems fair. We are still scoring a lot of goals, but undeniably, when we're talking about this press that we don't like and things like this, we need to be honest as well. I mean, young boys Bern are going to come to Celtic Park, nothing to lose, £3 million to gain if they get a win, or €3 million, whatever it is. They're going to put a press on us. They're not going to come and sit in, mate. No way. They're going to press us, and they're going to know we've got everything riding on that game. We've left it to that. We put all our eggs in the basket for it. I think the performance in Zagreb told you Celtic had made their mind up that it was going to be getting the job done against young boys Bern. I didn't like that thought process. I thought when I watched Zagreb, I thought they were a poor side. I thought they were a team that we could have got points from. And now we go into this game going, well, a team that's been rooted to the bottom of this competition might sound like, happy days. That's a game to put all your eggs in one basket on. However, flip it and then look at it and go, they've got nothing to lose, everything to gain in terms of financial reward, win bonuses for all the players. I'm sure if you get a win in the Champions League, that'll play a big part in their thinking too. Playing at 60,000 in front of Celtic Park, that atmosphere, it will galvanise them, because it doesn't seem to scare players anymore. They seem to embrace it. They seem to want to play in that environment. I'm not sure that's Celtic's fault, by the way. I think the way it's worked out, they all just seem to smile and enjoy it now. It used to scare the living daylights out of even the biggest names in football. So I don't blame Celtic for that. I don't know why that is. One thing I'll say as well, though, is they'll come here to play us at our own game like Club Brugge did. And if that's the case, we've got to have other ideas up our sleeve to try and counter it, because what we've seen this year so far, this calendar year, is the two teams that have put it right up against us, we've not really enjoyed it too much. And to be honest with you, I think Celtic have been found wanting when the press has been put against them, albeit we did get 3 goals against Dundee, and that should be commended away from home. We didn't get any against Rangers, and my guess would be young boys Bern will be far more of the standard Rangers are than Dundee. So we do need to have a look at chopping and changing it a wee bit and mixing up the strategy. It doesn't need to be completely binary. This is how we play, and this is the only way we can win football matches. It has to be mixed up. But what are you expecting in that match? We're only 6 days away from it now. I take it you're in agreement that they're going to press.
Oh my God, absolutely. And we know they're going to press. And so here's where my frustration was earlier. You know, I'm not entitled thinking, we need 20 out of 20 games. I'm looking at the form and the way the team is playing. Everybody can tell it's off key. It's not hitting the same beats that it should be, the way we're scoring. And I think the fact Rodgers has stripped a lot of the creativity away from this team. You know, what you said about the long ball, that long ball to do that, and it's no big one up in the air, that takes creativity and vision, but just a willing to adapt to your game so that you're going to recognise those possibilities when they come and take that chance. You know, one of my favourite goals was the one where Jota picked to Kyogo. You know, the ball was doing just bounced away our corner flag, you know, into the 18-yard line. Jota sees Kyogo making a movement and bang, hits that long ball right up diagonally up across the park. And I think it got the UEFA goal of the month or something, even. It was that good a goal. So,
yeah, I remember it well. I was at the game.
I think so. Yeah, that's how we beat the press. Do I think Rodgers is going to do that? No. I think Rodgers is going to start hammering that square peg into the round hole one more time and tell us that no, this is the way we play. And I think that's what's frustrating me right now. It's like Rodgers is a young man. Compared to me, he's a young man. How's he so reluctant to change? You know, and you know, regarding youth, regarding, you know, I'm puzzled by Narocki sitting there on the sidelines, a £4.3 million defender that we bought for Legia Warsaw that was in Champions League, I think, the year before, knocking on the Polish national team's door, who's got a pretty good team, not got a problem against Scotland, hardly ever. How he can't get a place in that back four, you know, that we've seen everybody ahead of this guy. And yeah, so do I think he's going to adjust it against young boys? Probably no, and I think that might frustrate the crowd. And just like our crowd's good, you know, it's brilliant, and you know that extra man during a Champions League game. You know, I don't want to see him turning on us, but my God, it will frustrate the life out our crowd if we see us being able to cope with a high press again. You know, it's just a reluctance to try and fix something and change.
Yeah, finding it, change it. I mean, Johnny, just with a wee quick glance ahead to the Young Boys Bern fixture, obviously we're talking about the threats that we think they'll bring. We don't know it. We're just kind of surmising that's how it could be. But Celtic will need to be wary of that, won't they? Because it is do or die in that fixture. The way I see Celtic getting a fixture away to Villa is if we're already through. I think we've got a chance to get a result then. If we have to go to Villa and get a result, I've got to be honest, I don't see that. What's your thoughts on the looking ahead to next Tuesday in terms of how Celtic are going to shape up, and will they try and vary it up a wee bit to try and tackle what's going to be difficult opposition with a game where the stakes are so high?
Right, first of all, got to say that I couldn't tell you the first thing about young boys. Much, I'm going to guess like a lot of us, but I'm just a bit worried it's going to be a bit like the Bodo Glimt scenario where when they came to Celtic Park, I think we were all more than confident that we were going to win that game. We were going to put that tie to bed first leg. I even listened to a couple of podcasts long before I was coming on here with you guys, and you know, 2 or 3 of them were predicting 3 and 4-0 wins, and then they came across here, and I think what was it they said after the game? They out-Anged Ange, and they gave us a good proper spanking, and I'm just a bit worried that we've walked into this scenario where we've just thought, we've got ourselves in a good position in the Champions League. Okay, we've got a couple of tough games against Bruges and Zagreb, but we've got the safety net of the young boys game. That will be the one that's going to make the difference. And I'm just getting a bit worried that maybe that safety net's not the safety net that we thought it was. Because if we have to go to Villa Park and get something to qualify, to scrape through into what looked like at one point we could do something quite comfortably. And I don't know, I'm not too sure of Villa's situation, whether they can be all done and dusted before we go there, or whether they've got to play for a point. Whichever way it works out, I think
their debate will be whether it's top 16 or top 8, I think, Johnny.
Right, okay. So one way they're going to be having something to play for, because if they need a point for top 8, they're not going to settle for being below top 8. They're going to be up there in that higher echelons. So if we need to go there and get a draw or a win, then I wouldn't fancy it. So I think we've potentially sleptwalked into a scenario where we thought it doesn't matter what happens in anything else, we'll sort it out at Young Boys. And one way or another we'll be in the knockout phases, whether it be in the top 24 or whatever the setup is. And because I don't know nothing about Young Boys, how they've played, how they're doing, where they are in the Swiss League, what situation the Swiss League is in, it's very difficult for anybody to sit there and say, we'll deal with Young Boys, no problem, because, as I said, that's what we thought with Bodo Glimt, Cape Town, and they showed us how wrong we were. So, yeah. So,
I think it's
will
a
it
fantastic
going to be
comparison.
tough or not? I don't know. He's going to have a decision to make regarding the centre backs for a start. Is he going to go? Is he going to? We'll see what his thoughts are on Saturday against Kilmarnock in the Cup. So, yeah, it's going to be squeaky bum time, I think, when we're all sitting around the telly watching that Champions League game.
Yeah, I really like your comparison, Johnny, to the Bodo Glimt game. I think it does potentially have that over it. I mean, I'm still confident Celtic can do what's required and get the required result. But obviously, we've got to be wary. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You've got to be wary. You've got to be. And as fans, it's okay for us to be highlighting the sort of fear factor that we've got going into these sort of must-win games. I mean, it's getting described as a cup final sort of fixture for a reason. That means there's jeopardy involved. If there's jeopardy involved, us as fans are naturally going to look at what brings the jeopardy from our point of view that we could do differently to avoid. Of course, we're going to talk about that. That's just normal. It's one other area that you spoke about, Johnny. I'm going to come to Liam on it and get his thoughts. But on the Adamida conundrum right now, the big worry was he hadn't had enough starts. Well, the first worry with Adamida was he didn't get the pre-season. Then he didn't seem to get a run of consistent starts. Now he's had the 4 starts in a row. He's been hooked on every one of them. He's not scored a goal in 12 games. I'd be loath to write him off this quickly. I don't think that's right, because if he's had a bad 6 months, well, fuck me, he had a fucking really good 6 months at the end of last season to counter that. Right? End of story. I mean, he came on leaps and bounds as the season went on and actually seemed to grab the responsibility, which I liked about him. I thought he was a player who didn't hide whatsoever. And when the going got tough, Adamida wanted to be seen and be involved in that and put his hand up, and was huge for Celtic at that point. Not just the cup final goal, by the way. I'm thinking more about the away games. You know, your Motherwell, Hibs, Ibrox, things like this, in such a short period of time. So it's difficult for me to write him off altogether. But notwithstanding that, there has to be concerns as to whether this guy's, when he's confident, looks like he did last season, and when he's not confident, his form falls off a cliff and he looks really far removed. He looks now, this is the mad thing, right? See, when we signed him in January, the biggest thing everyone said was, we've just signed the 3rd choice striker for fucking Norwich City. What's all this about? And he looked like a £9 million player. Now, when he joins us for £9 million, he looks like the 3rd choice striker from Norwich City.
He looks like Sidney Van Hooydonk.
Aye.
Which is who we all wanted everybody to go for, wasn't it? Van Hooydonk, Sidney Van Hooydonk. Although the fact we knew hee-haw about him, apart from the fact he was Pierre's lad, you know, if we'd actually gone and signed him, we wanted him rather than Ida. But Van Hooydonk got a goal for Norwich when he was down there, to be honest with you. So it's just...
That's the problem. You're shopping in Norwich, right?
Yeah, that's gone.
I think Ida needs to play angrier. He looks like if you look
at
his,
I like that.
I liked when Ange was talking about how he would look at the profile of a player and their mentality and that. And I think what you just said there is correct. What you're seeing is a mental problem. He's got all the physical attributes. Again, I watched him half time on Celtic TV, and there was that interview that he was doing, and he was slumped on the chair, you know, and I thought we were going to get a striker who was going to fight in battle, and every time I see him, he looks like he's fighting sleep. You know, he just looks like he's ready to drop off at any point, and I don't know, I want to see him angry. Angry the fact that he's not scoring that. He seems to be, you know, just dancing about tackles and this and that. I want to see him committed and going in if he's not scoring the goals that he's at least creating problems with the defenders and throwing himself about in a way that's at least use your physical presence, because I know he's trying to play like Kyogo, and I don't think that's his game. He's trying to do that, but that goes back to me for Rodgers' system right now. It's like, how are we not getting the best out of any of our strikers? Kyogo still makes it work, but he's far from what we require right now. He doesn't see anything in Johnny Kenny. Yeah, I think if Ida comes out and he just takes a good, honest look at himself, and he just needs something to spark and light that boy up, you know, get him a coach or something like that, just to sort of get him in the right frame of mind it takes to play at Celtic and win every single week. This isn't in Norwich, and I think we're wrong in shopping in those markets where you're getting teams that have no culture of winning, you know. And that we need boys that are winners. And it's a huge difference when you play in a winning team and the expectations, you know. So we know what it feels like.
It's an interesting one when you talk about the market as well, Johnny, because I think when you look at what they spend down there on players, I mean, I keep referring to this one, but, you know, Birmingham City in League One, they spent 10 million quid on a player in the summer. 10 million, you know, and the money that these clubs can demand for their players, such as their revenues and their sort of bank balances, I don't even know if their bank balance is that high, but they just seem to operate in fantasy land with the money, and they seem to be able to hold out for these crazy fees. And I do think it is, whether we want to admit it or whether we like it or not, the 9 million fee definitely plays into your thinking when you look at Ida as well. But it shouldn't, because it's chump change to Celtic for a start. You know, Celtic used to spend literally half their bank balance on a striker. See Chris Sutton. Now they spend, I don't know, less than 10% of their turnover on a striker, and we think it's a really expensive one. It's madness. But it's playing a part in people's psyche, and it's undeniably maybe even weighed down Adam Ida. I wouldn't like to think so, but I'm looking for reasons why his forms fell off a cliff. I put it down to the patchiness of his inclusion in the starting lineup, the sort of in one game, out for two, then in one, and it didn't seem to be rhyme or reason behind it. Kyogo was off form for a bit, but still started. And he thought, well, now surely it's his turn. And then, of course, you've got the look of it now where you go, well, you've started 4 games in a row, mate. Like, where are you? Where's the goals?
Yeah, I understand. I understand what Liam's saying when he talks about buying from a winning market, if you like. But sometimes it's not necessarily the surroundings. It can be the individual himself. I mean, like say, if it was possible to take Chris Sutton, a young Chris Sutton, and put him in that current Norwich team, because we remember is the team at Norwich that Chris Sutton played for, they were quite a good team. You know, I'm not saying they were, you know, winning trophies and all the rest of it, but Chris Sutton's attitude then, you know, he had a winning mentality, regardless of where he was playing at. The other thing is, Russell, you mentioned there about the market. If Norwich were in the Premier League, they'd have wanted more than 9 million for Ida, despite, you know, on the same levels he's at. So what you're saying is right. There is the fact that, you know, the markets that we're now working in, Birmingham City, who are in League One, the same league as the local team here in Lincoln are in, and they spent 10 million quid buying a guy. I can't remember where they bought him from, but you know, they spent 10 million quid, and then they probably didn't get, you know, for that level of league. They came to Celtic and they took Iwata. They came to Rangers and they took Ben Davies on loan. So Birmingham City have spent a lot of money in that league, you know. So it's a low level league, but they're spending, Birmingham City in particular, spend a lot of money. So I think if Ida was playing for Norwich or a team of Norwich's level that happened to be still in the Premiership, we'd have probably ended up, they'd have been wanting 12 to 14 million pounds from him, just because of where he is, not necessarily because of his ability. But it's like you said, what we've seen with Ida is almost like Jekyll and Hyde, how he came on and bullied people. What we want is Adam Ida against Kilmarnock in the 5-0 game, where he absolutely rampaged through, and you know, the title clinching game. I mean, that was either we just looked at him, and even then I was starting to think, I'm not quite sure about this guy. And then you seen him do that at Kilmarnock, and then you think, now that's what we're looking for. That's what we need. Somebody he's just, to use that good old Glasgow word, he was as gallus as fuck. He was just himself about. He was, on that particular night, I'm the man. Give me the ball and we'll do something. He's got a hat-trick that night, didn't he? Was that the night he's got a hat-trick?
I think it could be
at least 2, I think. But he led the line and he looked like the striker that we wanted.
Yeah, I think as well, there's another phrase, Johnny, that comes to mind with it as well. I think he's a rocket up his arse. That's how it feels at times. Like, come on, you. I think Liam's absolutely nailed it when he says you'd like to see him just have a wee bit more aggression in him, a wee bit angrier, just get a wee bit pissed off. Do you know what I mean? It's refreshing. Anyway, I think David Logue referred to Michelle in the chat as our correspondent. So Michelle jumps in to let us know of big news. Alex Valle loan is to be terminated. It's just came out now. I just seen it on Twitter as well. He's going to Como in Italy. So to facilitate that deal, Celtic would have to terminate his loan. Right. At least this gets me a bit exciting, Liam, because there is no way Celtic terminate the loan of Alex Valle without serious assurances Kieran Tierney is coming in the door this month.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Because they don't benefit from terminating Alex Valle's loan. They go, oh, yeah, he's a good lad, so we'll just sit back and have one left back for the rest of the campaign because we're just sound as fuck. Does it work like that, Liam? You only do that when you've got your contingency plan accelerated.
We done it last year.
I think so.
What did we do last year?
We went down to one left back in March, didn't we?
No, right, come on. We only had one left back last year.
We were already at one left back, but you know what I mean? But we did do it last year.
I know Bernabé's doing the business in South America again, good on him, but he was never in consideration.
No.
But there is no way that gets sanctioned, that we would just cut a loan early for another team's benefit just to cut our nose off and spite our face. That would just make no sense, Liam. It tells me KT's signed the pre-contract and now they're negotiating getting him here on loan for the last 6 months of his deal. It's got to be the news. We're all I think we should be excited by this one, if I'm honest. Valle leaving, and by the way, I don't think he was half as bad as what he's been described as. Like the judge described him as pretty poor and all that, but I actually didn't mind him at all. I thought he did a good job when he played, and I thought it was far more up Rodgers' street and Rodgers' definition of a left back. But then comes back to the manager again. Well, why not play him more? You know, you did seem to still prefer having your left back not be an auxiliary one in your formation, but instead be a lone wolf who's allowed to roam and pop up wherever he wants. Albeit brilliantly over the top ball by Taylor. I've got to be balanced. And that's the second time he's done that in a few games from the edge of the area. But how many more of those could you get if it was just one of our midfielders who are kind of paid to do that? Anyway, that's a different debate. I'm excited though if I see Valle going, and it's not because I'm happy to see Valle going, or Valle going in particular per se, but what it does mean is surely we're on the cusp now of announcing Kieran Tierney is going to be playing for Celtic in the 2024-25 season, not just from the 25-26 campaign. I think that's got to be the news that follows this story, because otherwise, like I say, I'd be dumbfounded as to what benefit there is for Celtic just to start terminating loan deals to benefit other clubs.
Johnny's right though. They did do it last year to us. They did it last year to us as well. So I don't know. I'm not completely. I mean, I'm pissed.
There'd be a big difference though between a guy though who started like 10 games, 10 to 15, nearly 20 appearances. You know what I mean?
I know, but you know what it's going to do as well is it's going to bring in some badly needed leadership in this team. Kieran Tierney is going to sit across with everybody in that dressing room. I've said this before. They know who he is. They know his accomplishments. They've seen his highlight reel. They've all seen him with Arsenal, seen him with Scotland. You've seen him in the Celtic highlights. You're getting there a baller of a player and a leader, a real leader. Somebody that's going to lead by example, you know, and going to. I think I think we should make him the captain when he comes back in, or share it between him and McGregor or CCV or something, because might not play every game. But that's the thing as well. I'm hoping he can get through this and become one of these players that ends up playing a lot of games. You know, I know his injury was what, a hip or something like that.
Yep.
But the last one was a knee, right? So
I think the last one was just hamstring, wasn't it? He done
hamstring.
For Scotland was the hammy, wasn't it?
Aye. But I think that's just up to him. Being, you know, if he's happy and he's playing, that might be a chance to sort of get the body up to more speed. It's probably all the inactivity after playing so many games, and then those long stretches in between games, you know, that might have made him more susceptible to these injuries, like particularly with Scotland and no getting a game with Arsenal. I think it's a great signing for him coming back. Yeah, I'm hoping that's the case where it is. Surprised that we couldn't have had this one done 2 weeks ago and Kieran Tierney already playing in our side. When we went to Ibrox, we had no problem doing that when Ange was here, you know, and so...
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
There was the same urgency required when we went into this window, knowing how much focus the board puts in these windows and themselves, unfortunately, by playing this incommunicado game with us and, you know, never knowing what's going on, what is the intentions of the club. Okay, would he sell a striker right now and the other ones? Watch us, you know. So, yeah, it's all watch the board stuff right now as far
Keep your
as...
eyes on the board, huh?
Keep your eyes on the board, mate.
I think I've heard that
Well,
once.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, I'm going to come to you on that because I think Liam's raised an interesting point there. Our biggest worry with the board is the fact that often they don't act proactively, they act reactively to everything, right? Now, one thing about the Postecoglou era was there was players signed both January windows that Postecoglou was here on the 1st of January, or I think might done that one in the door first, but they officially signed on the 1st. Alistair Johnston, was he not the 1st? I think he was, or maybe there was someone else.
No, we knew about him just after the World Cup, didn't we? Which was in December. So yeah, we pretty much knew he was coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the theory being business was done early to winter windows. Now my worry is Celtic don't have anything to be reactive to, so they're not acting whatsoever. That's what worries me. The Celtic have stopped the proactiveness again. Now, if you're not going to be as ambitious as what we would like, at least kid on you are and score open goals when they're in front of you. Kieran Tierney is a Celtic production. They want him to come back. I think that's one that's been put to Rodgers rather than Rodgers having to go to the board about Kieran Tierney. I think that's one that Celtic board wanted. So why not have that all sorted for the beginning of January? Get it all your ducks in a row with that and start pestering the life out of Arsenal towards the end of December about getting a loan deal sorted for January and May. He's going to sign with us on the 1st of January, mate, because that's when you can officially sign a pre-contract, the 1st of January, and then start putting the pressure on to get that loan deal completed. So what have we been waiting on? I don't know. Maybe it was something like this to open up. Maybe it had to be one of the left backs have to go this month before we can bring in KT early. That'll be the narrative. That'll be the narrative spun, right? I'm not saying that's factual, Johnny, but if we don't want to get too despondent about the Bows' lack of activity so far, absolutely surely, mate, we will be looking at that signing being done in the coming days if it is true that the Valle's loan deal has been terminated sort of with immediate effect.
Right, okay. First of all, have Celtic terminated Valle's contract, or have Barcelona had a call back and say we can call him back and send him back to anywhere else? So is it? So I think we need to know that one, because we recall Johnny Kenny back from, I know we're talking different levels of clubs here, but we recall Johnny Kenny back from Shamrock Rovers. That was Celtic that pushed the button on that one. So is it Barcelona that have pushed the button on Valle going back to Barcelona, then punted on to Como, which has been talked about in the press the last few days, hasn't it, anyway? Or is it Celtic have said to Barcelona, we've got this in progress, we don't need Valle anymore, we're going to give you him back? Because so surely Barcelona must be making something out of Valle being at Celtic Park. But whichever way it is, regardless of the Tierney situation, there's nothing to have stopped us waking up on New Year's Day or the 2nd of January to the news that Kieran Tierney has signed pre-contract with Celtic, which will kick in on July the 1st, 2025. And then take it, because this is what generally happens with these situations, right? He's coming to us in July anyway. We're happy to take him on loan. I think Arsenal will be quite, I'm not saying easy to deal with him, as in, i.e., money-wise, but they're not using him a great deal. He's got 8 minutes, was it last night, Tuesday night, against Spurs? He got 8 minutes, or he got brought on against Manchester United in the Cup. So he's being used sparingly, to say the least. So I don't think Arsenal will be the hardest club in the world to deal with. So we could have signed him on a pre-contract, announced it on the 1st, the 2nd, 3rd of January, whatever, and then worked on bringing them in either on loan or actually just signing him on a, I was going to use the phrase cheap deal, but it's not going to be as cheap as those deals would normally be. Somebody does, and there's been the sticking point, is it will have to be a loan, because Celtic are not going to pay 5 or 6 million quid for a guy they can get, or they're going to get for nothing in July anyway.
No, they're not. They're not.
We'll have to hope that a loan deal is now well down the line. The fact that Tierney's been playing, he played Tuesday night, I think it was, against Spurs, wasn't it? He came on. And the Arsenal fans are absolutely gutted about this, by the way. He's the only person at Arsenal that doesn't seem to rate Tierney is, and I'm quite glad about it, is Arteta. So fair play to him. But I would expect and hope to see Tierney with us in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I think Liam, there's talk in here that Barcelona actually terminated the deal. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. The original report from Fabrizio Romano says Celtic are terminating the loan deal, by the way. That's the one I'm looking at. He kind of broke the story in the first place, as he always does, apparently. But he said Celtic will terminate the loan deal. Others are saying that Barcelona have basically recalled him from his loan, but Celtic have took advantage of that before when we've loaned out players. So that is something that can happen. And what a beautiful irony it would be that Barcelona might actually be doing us a favour and forcing our hand, Liam, into having to go out and get Kieran Tierney in the here and now, and not just wait for a big summer's day for the arrival and have a podium for him and all that crap that they think they can make fortunes of. Get him in under the radar and straight into action could be what we're looking at now and faced with now that he's departed, because there's no point in bringing in another loan left back, mate. That'd be like the 10th left back since fucking Tierney was last year. It's just a pointless exercise. You would get the guy that's joined in the summer and early. I know what Johnny's saying about money, Liam. Can I give you something interesting here? There was a guy who played for Aberdeen last night called Tobers at centre back. I can't remember his first name. Aberdeen, he's the Latvia captain, and Aberdeen paid £800,000 for him in the January window. He had 5 months left in his contract. So he is a £5 million centre back, essentially. Do you know what I mean? Or something along those lines. That's a guess. But if you're paying 800 grand for a guy with 5 months left, that shows you how desperate you are to get him. They think he's something that they don't have. They think he's a player of above a level than they currently have. And they've got goals still of trying to chase that second place down, albeit I think it's a reach for them. I really do. But I think that's obviously, but they've went big. They went ambitious. And 800 grand to them is more than what 3, 4, even 5 million would be to Celtic to get Kieran Tierney in 5, 6 months later. So you've got to be looking at this now going, well, who's operating a football club here and who's operating a business? And I know they need to meet in the middle at times, but I think ours is so swayed towards the PLC side of things that it can muddy the waters from a football fan's sort of vision when they're looking at it. And we now start saying, yeah, I wouldn't spend that. Shut up. Well, that's the board's problem. We've got the money in the tank, and it's time that we showed a wee bit of ambition. If teams like Aberdeen can splash 800 grand on the captain of Latvia, who only had 5 months left in his deal, they absolutely could have signed him in the pre-contract deal and then been happy with the top 3, top 4 finish in European football next year anyway. But they've thought big. And it's time that we start thinking, well, okay, yes, he helps you get a domestic treble, but also if we are serious about this young boys Bern match and we qualify for knockout football, he'll be available for that. And suddenly you're actually looking at the real sporting contest at Celtic, the sporting element of things again. And that's what we don't do enough of. We're so focused on, and I think the fans, it almost rubs off on them. I think maybe inadvertently, as I say, if it's Barcelona that have just recalled him out of nowhere, albeit, as I say, the original report from Fabrizio Romano says Celtic terminated the loan deal. But if it is Barca who are forcing Celtic's hand, then let Celtic's hand be forced. And it's time that you don't fanny about trying to get a cheapo in between now and the end of the season just to be elastoplast. You make KT happen permanent. And I think if it is a nudge for Barca that's caused this, it might be a blessing in disguise, Liam.
Aye, might be the stick up the arse that we need just to get moving right now, because we've got all the money in the bank. We should have adequate players for every position right now, right and left back. We should be looking at it. It's like, okay, so like, where have we moved on from Tony Ralston and things like that? I mean, the Aberdeen example, they spent that money with every intention of playing that player, of him playing 90 minutes, him playing as many games as they can out of him. We signed players with absolutely no intention of playing them, but you just don't see any imagination of them even coming into the team. And you look at, the boy that just went to Los Angeles, Odin Holm. We've had a number, Lagerbielke, the Nuroke. Go back for ages, and you can see all these players that we've signed and all that. That didn't really seem to be in anybody's plans or in the future. Same with the boys coming through for the B team. None of them seem to have there doesn't seem to be a vision about getting them any sort of meaningful game time to develop them as a player as well. Right now, I feel that our board is this recruitment month. I think this is to see how much hours of recruitment they can put on their timesheets. You're right, Kieran Tierney could have been done and dusted 2 weeks ago, 16 days ago. That could have been announced to the fans. And instead it's like, but that was a really hard one to get through. So everybody worked hard in getting Kieran Tierney. And if that's our aspirations for a window where we can only manage to get one or two players through, and even, better if they actually have a connection with Celtic, because we seem to be going that route as well. That doesn't show good that anything's changed in our recruitment right now. The fact that there is younger players. Somebody on the board mentioned the boy at Hearts, Penrice. That'd be a great signing. Is that another Hickey that we're losing there? Is he going to go to Italy? Somebody else is going to see him. Look, I think we've had a really good result out of McCowan. I was really disappointed to see him go off the other night. I want to see boys that are Scottish getting a chance in a game. And I know Greg Taylor's Scottish, and he's had plenty of chances. And it's only took me 50 minutes now. 50 minutes. No bad. Can you say it?
Where's that klaxon? Who's always gets the klaxon out?
Graham Terrell will be in the chat in a second.
But I don't know. I see Celtic falling into the same trap, and I'm pissed that Rodgers isn't angry. That I'm not seeing the performance that I think he wants on the park, and you can also hear it in his tone as well. And he doesn't have the players. I mean, that whole lip reading thing where what was he said about trusty piece of piss or something like that, waste of space, or there's a couple of connotations of it. Why is Roger no kicking his heels down and saying, hey, I want these players in? We still get the same, where's the movement? He can't be happy with his squad the way it's performing right now. And he's the one that right now I think we should focus on and say, it's your responsibility. You're getting paid more than any other manager in this league. Manage,
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely fair. It is one that is going to dominate the chat undeniably for now until the end of the show, and you can't blame them for that.
What we'll say, Russell, is regarding the Tierney situation. If it has, you said at the start of the programme tonight, start of the show, about how we've stopped being proactive as a board and now reverted back to being reactive. So if Barcelona are the ones who pulled the plug on Valle, it kind of proves the point that I'm going to have to react to something now because something's happened. We're going to have to react to it rather than Celtic saying, we want Tierney in, we're going to bring him in now. And it makes no difference whether we've got Taylor and Valle there in place as well. We'll have Tierney as well. What's better than 2 fullbacks? 3, And if Barcelona did say, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take him back off you, then that would have been Celtic being proactive rather than potentially reacting. Although, obviously, we only talking on what we've seen on here and what you've read on Twitter. We don't know what the scenarios are.
I'll go to this next one, Johnny. I'll come straight back to you. It's concerning that we've got 2 important games with Dundee, says Michelle. Who do we rest? Do we rest? It's 2 games we need to win, and Kilmarnock are our bogey team as well. What do you make of that?
To win games, you should be playing your strongest team, but at the minute, we're not 100% sure what our strongest team is because we've seen Scales have an absolute nightmare at Ibrox and was dropped. We've seen Trusty, he got taken off at Hampden in the League Cup because he wasn't because he wasn't performing to the standard that Brendan wanted, apparently. Came back in. And then those of us that watched the game at Dens Park, seeing Trusty getting kind of pushed around a bit, shall we say, at the least, and not having a good game. So we don't know what the strongest team is. What's Brendan going to do? Is he going to take one out and put another one back in? Or is he going to stick with what he's had? I'd have my Ada and Kuhn both back on the park if they're both fit to play. If they're fit to play, you've got to play them because we can't afford to lose. We can't afford to lose either game in the respect of we can't afford to lose on Saturday because it puts us out of the Scottish Cup, and we can't afford to lose on Wednesday. It is Wednesday, isn't it? Young boys, better be, because that's what I'm hoping for.
22nd, so 6 days from now, Wednesday.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll be back. We can't afford to lose that game because we want to get into that next phase of the Champions League. So unfortunately, resting players, can't rest players at this stage. You've got to play them, and you've just got to hope they come through injury free. But
yes,
who's going to play the strongest side? That's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, well, that's true as well. That is true. Well, that's a good thing, though. It's a good thing that we don't just know straight away off the bat what the exact 11 will be. Liam, let's hope the sports scientist at Celtic isn't quite as influential as the one across the city, yeah?
What do you mean?
Well, apparently Philip Clement has been saying after every game when they've been dropping points that the reason he had to leave out his key players and all that is because the sports scientist basically just tells him. So I'm hoping that we do follow Johnny's logic and we just go as strong as we can for these 2 games. It's a knockout game on Saturday. There's no freebies in football. Certainly not against the team that's described as a bogey team in Kilmarnock. I can see why. Particularly under Rodgers, we've had dodgy results against them.
Is it Celtic Park on Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
they're not quite the bogey team at Celtic Park because they could be at Rugby Park. It's still
no free passes though.
Game.
Yeah, no free passes though. No, definitely not.
Winning is imperative to this team, and that's why, I get discontent when I see poor performances, and that even though you're winning as well, you want to see. I expected to see Celtic win every game. So I think play your best players. Just going back to Tierney for a sec, Russell. One of the reasons that I think the board are really negligent in doing this as well is the longer we are leaving it. I mean, what happened if Arsenal 2 left backs get injured or the 1 left back gets injured right away? There's no chance they're going to let him go. So to get this stuff, to gamble with this and then not get it done and only have 1 right now, that makes no sense to me. I see somebody in the chat said that Barcelona were disappointed at Valle's game time. Now it came from the Spanish press. Seen that.
Yeah, I mean, there's another offer on the table, really, isn't there? So I would imagine that's more. That's more. Liam, there's one final point before we go. This came to you, and it's Joe Henry. Great to have you on the bus. I know you're a regular viewer, Joe, top man. And he says, Liam, Is that coming from a more objective view of Scotland from a distance? Are we in a goldfish bowl in our thinking over here?
Oh my God, definitely. Definitely. You see it. You see it. I used to see it when players came over that had played in Scotland as well, you know, that came over and played amateur in Canada as well. And I think there is, and it's right through the culture of football, from everything, from how it's policed, to how the fans are treated, to just the way the clubs look at themselves as a brand and the way they behave as a brand. If any North American teams, I mean, maybe Toronto Maple Leafs, but even they don't act like the way we act, and other football clubs act with their fans and stuff like that. I think you're going to see this shifting. You know, Apple's really involved in football. You see that Facebook's getting involved with UFC and things like that. And I've talked about this before. When bigger platforms take over the brand and it becomes like visual commodity television and that, and they're going to have more and more influence. And right now, like our brand, I mean, our board just seem, these are the same old guys with the same old ideas for ages, and this is about change. And if you're not changing, you're standing still. It's like, fuck, it's like just going to get grayer and grayer, So I want to see some colour on our board. I want to see some new ideas and new thoughts. And so, are we behind the times as far as the theology around a brand and a club? Light years. And yet the irony and the juxtaposition is, we've got all that history in the brand. We've got authenticity. We've got a rebellious streak to it. You've got every single thing a brand needs to check to be viral and mass and something to be proud of. And our board have no idea how to manage that.
You're so right, man.
So yeah,
I think you've nailed it, mate. A lot of sense spoken by Liam there, and I think that's absolutely right. Just a board that realises the potential that the club's got. And as you say, if you were looking at it just from a purely commercial view, Celtic tick every box you would want in terms of being able to create headlines and go viral, as you described it. You're absolutely spot on. You've got the history there. You've got the authenticity. You've already got trophies in abundance, world records potentially. And then you've got, obviously, the actual fan base itself being absolutely ginormous and worldwide. And that might sound, hundreds of fans. I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing the hoops. You can't go anywhere. And you'll see
Russell, can I just jump in on that point just while it's fresh in my memory? New Year, I was working standby and I got the trip I wanted. I wanted a 3-day trip to New York. And the only reason I wanted a 3-day trip to New York was so I could get to an Irish bar in New York and watch the Celtic Rangers game. And I ended up in the one that Liam recommended to me, Dempsey's.
No, I got your local now. No, just the local, not good enough for you, Johnny. Just got to go to New York to watch a Celtic game.
Take a a few thousand miles.
Hell.
But what I was going to say was that we talk about fans such as Liam, and Liam must know it, I'm sure he does, and Pam as well, and San Francisco, who he does actually live in San Francisco. But the place was crammed, and yeah, there was Irish guys there, there was Scottish guys there, but there was a lot of actual American-born, probably to Irish or Scottish parents, a lot of them, and the passion they had, and they were just getting as worked up about how badly the game was going as we would be watching the game in Glasgow or whatever city in Scotland you were watching it from. So there is that massive fan base, and like Liam says, the board really need to work in, and they can make a lot of money out of that and tap into that, because I was absolutely gobsmacked. What's the name of the support club there? The Unrepentant Fenian Bastards or something, isn't it, Liam? Yeah, so
my boy's got
great place.
Brilliant. It's all embroidered and it says, yeah,
great place. And the next time in New York, I'll definitely be making a beeline for there again. But yeah, so it's just to say that there's so much that they could do, like what Liam's just been saying, and just when you mentioned the fan base and being so worldwide, it's not just the big fan base. They are passionate about it. They are, they're just like anybody that lives within walking distance of Celtic Park. So just to add that into it. Yeah.
Also, Johnny, can I jump in here for a sec? Just because you were commenting on like North American Celtic clubs and all that. It's a wee bit international news. McVeigh's Irish pub in Toronto, home of the downtown Toronto Celtic Supporters Club, the Sean Boyce CSC, which it was originally called after the great Sean Boyce, an American Vietnam Army veteran that used to climb up on the roof and help us fix the satellites. It was named after him. Brilliant wee guy. Yeah, they've closed the doors there. I guess old Jimmy sold the pub, and anybody that's been to Toronto on holiday, that's the club that you end up going to. There's everybody's in there. There's been more film stars in there, than there's been in most film festivals and that. Like the amount of people that you look over, and many times you looked over and Billy Connolly's having a cup of tea at the bar with Jimmy, and seen Rod Stewart in there, and number of people, and it was a fantastic club, and it was started about 30 years ago, and I know they've moved to somewhere else, but I just want to say, it's so many great memories in that place. That's where I watched the Seville game, with all my pals in there with kilts and sombreros and fucking lot, and the rest of Toronto's middle of the day thing. What are these guys on? Where have they been? Why they're steaming at 3 o'clock, Anyway, yeah, so it's sad to see. That's another one of the great legendary pubs, and really sad to see it go. And a great bunch of members and guys that ran that. Thanks for all your help.
Oh, appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that as well. That's class, mate, and a real shame that it's shutting down. In terms of you watching the Celtic, how does that affect you?
I mean, that's Toronto. I'm in Vancouver, so I was the original season of that one. We used to share a club with the Rangers guys.
Nearly going as far as Johnny to watch the Celtic game there in my mind.
I must admit that it's the furthest I've ever travelled to see a Celtic game. It's going to be said. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I remember getting out a plane in Warsaw and getting a driver to drive me about, trying to find a Celtic bar, and pre-internet, and this guy found me, and it ended up being, I think, like Jakinovsky or something that played for Celtic. He was the owner of the bar. I think that was some
cool.
If it was Jakinovsky that was the owner of the bar, I'm not guessing it didn't make too much in the way of profit.
I don't know. I was right on it, the Polish beer immediately.
Right, okay. Anyway, that's us done. Thanks for sharing that, Liam. That was a nice way to round up the show. Big shout out to you, Johnny, and Liam, of course, for their input tonight. And of course, the 170 plus that have been on the bus with us all night as well. Can't thank you all enough for joining us for the T.N.F. We'll be back tomorrow with the Friday feeling. We're filling the guys. Liam will be there. And usually there's one or two others. I might jump on again. You never know. I don't know what my plans are. I might actually be quiet enough that I can. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers for jumping on the bus. Adios. See you.